Fabulous podcast. I am your host and creator, Melanie Robinson. And today I'm really excited to have one of my sister queens from the Miss Voluptuous pageant. This is Michayla D. Guidice. Did I say that right?
You're good.
Okay. Thanks so much for joining me, Michayla. I am so stoked. I feel like I kind of already know you, even though we've never met in person. But one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on today is that you have an amazing platform, which I think really ties in to my platform about becoming fearless and fabulous, no matter your size, no matter your age. So, first, can you just give us a brief introduction of you and your title, and then tell us a bit about your platform?
Absolutely. So, hello, everyone. My name is Michayla. I am the current Miss Voluptuous Canada Central. I am the very first Canadian to compete at Miss Voluptuous International, so I'm so excited.
Woohoo!
I created the yeah, it's super exciting. I created the Real Resiliency Project. I believe it was 2019 when it first started. It started off as like a really small social media movement where I would like feature quotes and posts a little bit about like being like cultivating like who you are, and then it didn't really take off, so I wanted to build it into something that everybody could relate to, everybody could be inspired by, and I took my personal story and ran with it, and now it has reached, I believe it's, I can't quote you on the exact number, but I think I've reached about 1,800 children to young adults in Canada, speaking a little bit about how to take the social labels that we experience in society and turning them into a positive affirmation, ultimately becoming our real resilient self. So, with this platform, I do a lot of speaking engagements, but I also do a lot of little like initiatives as well. So I have my own little like talk show thing where I kind of talk about any topics that I'm feeling up for that week, or if my followers have any questions about, cultivating their resilience or anything related to my personal story. And then I'm also working on a book called Real Queens United, and it's actually going to be published in July. And each chapter is featuring a identifying women and their story of resiliency and overcoming obstacles, and it's really meant to show people that regardless of where we come in life, believing in our abilities is going to get us to success.
That's so exciting. I love a queen who is making moves. It's and you and I both being, involved with the pageant. I think a lot of people tend to have a, I don't know, kind of an outdated idea or a perception of what a pageant queen is. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast is to dispel some of these notions that it's not just about the glitz and the glam, although we do love those parts of it. But we are out there, we are serving our communities, we are changing hearts and minds, we are raising funds, we are writing books, we're doing all these great things. And with you doing your Real Resiliency Project, I think that is going to be so helpful to many, many people. So you mentioned your own personal story. Do you mind giving us a bit background about that?
Absolutely. So I grew up to a teen mom, and my mom was my advocate from day one. My mom is the definition of fearless and fabulous.
Yes.
She is a powerhouse of a woman. She battled a lot in her life, has gone through a lot of mental health, and now is living a life where she was originally in the bank system, really unhappy, and now she's teaching meditation to people with disabilities. Like she is like the embodiment of a woman who looked at her situation and turned it around. So growing up, I always had this confidence before I went to school. Like my mom can tell you a story. I went and got my photos done at Walmart, and I cried for an hour because the little box that you sit on was not a big enough stage for me perform on. And so I exuded this confidence, and it was immediately when I started school that that crumbled. I
Mm,
noticed that I wasn't learning at the same pace as other kids. I wasn't and my confidence dwindled. I noticed that I couldn't read, I couldn't write, couldn't communicate well with them. And then in the fourth grade, I got diagnosed with various disabilities,
Mm.
intellectual and learning disabilities. And I think that was it was a help and a hinder. So in regular schooling, I was looked at as that disabled kid. So I was getting told by teachers that I would never go to post secondary education. I would
Wow.
never make a name for myself. And I even recall a teacher saying that I was a waste of space in the classroom because I had a disability.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so growing up, I believed that stuff. So I failed every grade in elementary school. They always said on my documentation, like, she's trying, but she's just not getting there. So it was almost like I was trying so hard, but it never clicked, and I didn't really believe in my own abilities. And when I went to grade 8 going into grade 9, I knew I wanted to make a difference. I knew that I wanted to change my life, and I knew that I wanted to be somebody that I wasn't being. So I changed that. I was on honor roll every single year, graduated with the highest average in my high school. Um,
Yes.
then was able to go to I have a diploma in social work. I have a degree in psychology, a master's degree in education. I'm doing
Wow.
a career consulting certification right now, and I am the youngest person in my career to be the position that I am in. I'm the youngest by 10 years. So that's kind of how it started for me. You know, it was a click in my brain that I'm not living the life that I wanted to. I
Mhm.
need to show people that people with intellectual disabilities and learning disabilities can do really good things and can get, education and can be successful. So, that's where I think the Real Resiliency Project really started to come out, is believing in your abilities will get you to those goals. Um, and then, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm also Indigenous Canadian, so that's another big part of the Real Resiliency Project, is sharing, my family's history of being in the residential school system, and the mistreatment that my family has
Mm.
had. And growing up as, somebody who's experienced that intergenerational trauma related to the residential schools, and growing up as a white passing Indigenous is also something that I speak a lot about in my platform as well.
Well, your story is certainly one of resiliency and also a thriving despite challenges. That's something that I really love to hear, stories of women who have overcome these adversities. And in your case, being constantly labeled
Yeah.
as not being able to do something. And
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I've had a similar experience where I was labeled a certain way, and that's just a tape that just plays over and over in your brain, and you really feed into it.
Mm.
What was it? Now, you mentioned there was a click in your brain, like, besides your own, uh, determination, was there someone, a mentor, who helped you to pull through that point and get you on the honor roll?
Yeah, I actually had a teacher in grade 8. He was the only male teacher. There was 2 male teachers I had, and both of them were fantastic, and they both believed in who I was. They always said that, you are going to be somebody. And it was also a mixture between them, and it was also I had a mother figure in my life. When I She passed away in 2010 from cancer, and she was a mother figure for me. When my parents were going through their divorce, she was kind of that stability that I really needed. And she I would constantly say to her, like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. I was a competitive athlete. Like, I was anywhere from 5 to 7 days a week, I was training. And I kept telling myself that, oh, I'm not going to win this competition because I'm disabled. And it was her who said, you might have a limitation. It's the way that you believe in your abilities that's going to get you somewhere. Like, you just need to figure out what accommodations you're going to need to be successful. And I think it was her words. And after she passed away, I wanted to make her proud. I think it was more of, it was personal drive, but it was also the fact that I wanted to prove to people that I could do it, but I also wanted to make her proud, and leave her legacy as well.
Thank God for these amazing teachers and mentors. I don't think some of these people who come into our lives fully can appreciate what they do for others. And now you are that example. So, what are you hoping to do for the next generation of women who may be dealing with similar circumstances as yours?
Definitely my first step is my book that I'm writing right now. The Real Queens United, it started off as, a series of initiatives where I wanted pageant queens to come together and volunteer. And that's kind of what it was. But then I realized like everybody has a story to tell. And I've seen the power of sharing stories. So one of the big things that I've started doing throughout my reign as Miss Voluptuous Canada Central is I've been working one-on-one with at-risk youth in the community and hearing their stories and helping them guide them and believe in themselves and giving them those resources that they need. And my biggest thing is that this book is going to help so many of them to believe in their abilities because I've had a slew of interviews so far. I think I've had anywhere from 10 to 15 interviews with women, and each of them I can feel a piece of their stories are going to impact the students that I meet every single day in my volunteering but also in my career. And a lot of them, it's those social labels that we talk about, like,
Mhm.
being a woman in society. We oftentimes are being told that we can and can't do certain things, or being indigenous, or being plus size, like we're looked at in pageantry, is a really big barrier. I've competed in some systems where I've always felt that I was not beautiful enough to compete. And my goal is with this book is that we are going to shape the next generation to believe in their abilities despite these labels that we are placing on them.
That's amazing. I can feel the passion just coming through your voice, Michayla, and that's so exciting. I honestly believe that as unconventional pageant girls, right, we are not the quote unquote norm, that we are changing the perception in the face of pageantry by just showing up. I want to touch on social media a bit because we all know that in order to get ourselves seen to a broader audience, in order to get our messages out, social media is really helpful, but it can also be very difficult to navigate. What is your advice to women who may be plus size or indigenous or disabled to get their messages out and deal with any possible backlash?
Mhm. Absolutely. I think my favorite thing I tell people is to build a network of your own. So not even a social media network, a support system. So what I have found, even in my own journey of building my advocacy project, having those connections, having those people who identify with some of the identities that I struggled with. So that's why I joined Miss Voluptuous, because I always thought that being plus size was almost like a dirty word. And I joined this pageant because I was like, I don't like the feeling that when I look at my body, I don't like how I feel inside. I want to be surrounded by women who are going to empower me and uplift me in this healing journey. And I went through burnout this year, and I talk about it very, very broadly on social media. And hearing other queens' stories about how they also experience burnout. So, my biggest advice is build those communities. If you
Mhm.
are someone who has a disability, True Faces is, I'm an ambassador for them. They are a community of people who are disabled, and we meet, once a month, and we talk about, how are we going to promote disability inclusivity on social media. And indigenous communities, we have so many different connections in the now that we have a remote world, we're all able to connect with one another. So my biggest thing is, when you're looking at building your advocacy project, is surround yourself with that network, because there are going to be negative backlashes. I've gotten on social media that I don't look traditional indigenous, I am white passing, because my mom is like super super white, very blonde hair, blue eyes. It's my dad's side that's indigenous, so
Mhm.
that is something that I've had to come to terms with. But having that like support system even online is really helpful, because I know that I have people to lean on. But I also, if there is a negative comment, I do delete it, because I'm like, they're not worth my time. If they're
Right.
hiding behind a social media page, they're not that significant to me. My social media account is, I call it my diary. I post how I feel. I post things that I think will benefit other people. And honestly, like I've learned that if there is negative backlash, they're not worth my time. The people who uplift me and support me are worth my time.
Absolutely. 100% queen. 100%. And that's you talked about burnout this past
Mhm.
year, and I can definitely relate to that. I feel like this last year it was a big roller coaster for myself. Lots of great highs, but some very low lows. I am wrapping up a position I've been working at for the past year that has really challenged me mentally, given, stressed me out much more than I anticipated. And I could tell that I felt I had to fight through these feelings every day. And even when I was coming, showing up on social media, I feel like, okay, let's do this. Let's, do what I want to do and keep plowing through. And I realized that no job is worth this type of stress, the toll it took on my mental health. I literally drove home a few times in tears because I was so stressed out. So thankfully, I am putting that behind me. I am soon to be leaving that position and going on and be able to do the things that uplift me and uplift others. How did you navigate that burnout?
Yeah, I never really I've struggled with mental health a long time. I also have PTSD, so post traumatic stress disorder. I also have ADHD. So I have a ton of different. I call myself like the grocery bag of mental illness and disabilities because I have so much. But I never experienced burnout. And what I was noticing is I sat back for a second and I was like, well, what is causing the burnout? What was causing it was I was adding so much on my plate. So then I started asking myself, like, why am I doing that? And I got to the root of the problem. And it was, I grew up feeling like I wasn't good enough. And I almost felt like I had to prove to people that I could do things. So as an adult, I have added so much to my plate that it was not making me happy. So and right after my last pageant, that's when my burnout really started. I lost my grandmother just before my last pageant in June. And then I competed. I had no time to mourn her loss.
Mm.
And then from like literally July to, I want to say, even into like September, October, I was experiencing this burnout. I pulled away from social media. My coach was like, Michayla, like, where are you? What are you doing? Because I went on such a high in 2023. I
Mhm.
changed jobs. I moved in with my partner. We had this beautiful home, and a lot of big things were happening, and it went too fast. So what I've learned is to settle down and take it day by day, and also like getting in touch with my spirituality has been really something that I've like started to learn, and my self-care, and connecting with my ancestors, because that's a big belief in my culture. So my biggest advice to anybody who is experiencing burnout is take time for self-care. Like if you're somebody who is on social media and an advocate, that post can be on another day. You don't need to
Yes.
post every single day. Some days, I have like four things planned that I want to post, and I'm like, come home, I'm too exhausted, so it can be on another day. So I've come to terms with this fact that I'm trying to stem away from people pleasing and doing things
Mm.
for Michayla, and prioritizing my own mental health. And I've realized that prioritizing my mental well being has actually allowed me to show up more on social media and give more of an impact when there's more of me to give.
Absolutely. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And
Exactly.
when you mentioned people pleasing, I'm a recovering people pleaser. When I was in my 20s, I often felt I had to do something so that people would accept me or that I would be good enough, quote unquote. And it took me a while to get through that. And I like the fact that you mentioned how you are prioritizing your own mental health first and that post can wait. Some of these other things can wait a minute. I need to take care of me first. I think, especially as women, we tend to feel like we have to give, 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 and give before we do something for ourselves. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I'm the oldest sibling of four, and my family grew up. There was a lot of trauma that grew up in my adulthood, or sorry, my childhood, because my parents were divorced. It was a very nasty divorce.
Mm.
Me and one of my parents went 8 years without speaking.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, and I felt like from a young age, and all of this happened like from grade 8 to the age of 16. And I felt like I had to be strong for my siblings. I felt like I had to take care of my siblings. And that's something, and I grew up too fast. So when I got into my university years, I wasn't your typical, like, let's go to a party, like, let's have fun. I was, I need to sit down, I need to study, I need to get my education so that I can provide myself. So I've started to learn as an adult that it's okay to be a child once in a while and to get into those things that you liked as a kid. Like, I am a like, everybody on my social media knows I am a huge Harry Potter fan. Hufflepuff in particular, not the whole Harry Potter series. Literally just being a Hufflepuff is my entire identity half the time. And I've learned that it's okay to celebrate that uniqueness. Or
Hmm.
I used to be afraid of what I look like on social media because when I started, getting older, your body changes.
Hmm.
So I used to hate like looking at my belly, and I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I get weight gain that holds a lot in my belly. So I would crop photos so that way I would alter my body. And I've come to realize within like starting this journey with Miss Voluptuous has been amazing because I don't tweak my photos anymore. I don't, if I don't want to put makeup on that day, that's totally fine. I'm going to take a photo, I'm going to post it in my
Yes.
stash, and I don't feel the need to like alter my appearance anymore because I feel more empowered. And to be honest with you, this pageant system, it's the first time I don't feel like I'm competing. I feel like I'm part of a sisterhood, and this
Yes.
sash unites me with other women. And it's the first time that I don't feel obligated that I have to be the best of the best. I don't feel that pressure. I feel like I can connect with queens, and I can, and like I don't feel that pressure that comes with competing. And I felt that joining this system has actually taught me how to love myself as a woman, a plus size woman, as a woman who's disabled. I feel more empowered. And I get to connect with women and hear their stories and hear, their struggles, and get advice on, how to adult because, like, I'm like one of the younger queens, and I'm always like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So being able to connect with queens and have these moments of like advice sharing is absolutely incredible.
Girl, we are always still figuring it out. I can tell you that we older, more mature queens who may seem like we've got it all together, but girl, we're still figuring it out. It's a process. I love this so much, Michayla. I want to ask you lastly, what do you do to make yourself feel fearless and fabulous?
Okay, this one's it's so much fun. So I'm a past dancer. I did baton twirling. I'm now a baton dance and pom pom coach. And one of the things that when I experienced burnout, I was like, okay, I need to go back to my roots. What are the things that I loved as a kid? And I was like, I love to dance. I was never the best dancer. I was never the best twirler. But so one of the big things is I started coaching again, which has been like I absolutely love being back in the gym, seeing girls like, the progression. We have our first competition next week, and I'm like, everyone's nervous, but I'm like pumped just to put the girls on
Oh,
the floor to compete.
exciting.
But I've noticed in my own daily self care is I used to wake up, I would go like, and it would cause burnout. Now I wake up, I put on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
And I literally, I death drop in my living room. I lip sync for your life every morning. If I come home from work and I'm just like one of those days where you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you feel like it was the worst day ever. I don't
Mhm.
go to bed with that feeling. I will put on a RuPaul's Drag Race song and I will like vogue it out in the living room. Like I am a huge
Yes, girl.
yeah. I'm like, absolutely. We have a lip sync battle coming for Miss Voluptuous, and I am like, I have been prepared for this my entire life.
I'm telling you, this lip sync battle, I feel like we're more excited about that than anything else. Have you felt the same
Oh
kind of
yeah.
energy? Everybody's like, well, what song am I
Oh,
going to do? Like, can I do this
exactly.
type of thing? It's going to be epic. I'm so excited. So you use music, you use dance, you use the people you're coaching, which I think is amazing and fabulous. So those are the things that you do for yourself then to make yourself feel fearless and fabulous.
Yeah, and then also connecting with my culture because I went, almost 20 years not knowing that I was indigenous, and
Mm.
because I didn't have my biological dad around. My mom had me at 17, was a single mom. She raised me, and so I didn't know, like, and she didn't know that I was indigenous either, so she couldn't help me even on that healing journey. But now, like, connecting with my culture, connecting with my grandmother who was the residential school survivor, and teaching me what it means to be an indigenous woman and be proud of it. I make sure that every single day I'm taking time out to either be outside in nature, connecting with my roots, or talking to my ancestors and asking them for guidance. So that's one thing that I found that's brought me a lot of inner peace is really practicing my culture and being proud to be an indigenous woman, because oftentimes in Canada we've been told that we can't practice our own culture. So being able to advocate now for indigenous rights but also be able to be a practicing indigenous is really special and makes me feel like fearless every time I get up in the morning.
That's wonderful. I love to hear you proudly saying that you are Indigenous and pushing for to be seen more as you are. So it's a quick side story. My father and his brother, they were both adopted, and my uncle, he was American Indian, and
Mhm.
he went through the same thing in school where he was basically treated like a second class citizen, also left-handed, but he was told, "Don't use your left hand. That's,
Mhm.
that's a sign of mental illness. Use your right hand." Just a lot of mistreatment, and it wasn't until later in his life that he was able to embrace his actual culture, and he started practicing his spirituality and connecting. So I'm so glad that people are finally getting this opportunity to reconnect with, who they are, where they come from. That's so important. And that's part of being resilient, isn't it?
Mhm.
Just being able to
Absolutely.
really fully step into who you are.
Mhm, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy thinking back to that little girl who was like, 4 years old and sitting on that little stage. She's now back. And I, it's crazy because I always strive to want to be her again because my mom will tell you, I put her heels on, I walked around naked with a bag half the time, and I had I had like the confidence, like it was crazy, and it just dwindled. And now that I am older and I can feel that little girl inside,
Mm.
like clapping and snapping that I'm back to doing these things and being her again. So it is very nice, and that's what I like to teach with my students and my projects as well, is believing in yourself and getting in contact with your younger self, because it's okay to like things that you liked when you were a kid. We don't
Oh,
all have to grow up
absolutely.
so fast.
I've rediscovered Barbie. I've come out of
Yeah.
the closet. I am all about wearing pink, and Barbie can do anything.
Love it.
Michayla, this has been a wonderful conversation. Where can people find you on social media?
My biggest one is Instagram. It's at Real Resiliency. I'm also on Facebook. I'm under Michayla, and I believe it's Miss Voluptuous Canada Central. It's me doing my power pose. I'm also on TikTok,
Okay.
and I don't post as much on TikTok, but I do have a few videos on there. And it's also at Real Resiliency as well.
Wonderful. I will put those links within our video here so people can go follow you and they can also learn more about your project. Thank you so much, Michayla. I cannot wait to meet you in August. This is going to be an epic, epic adventure. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for joining us today on the Fearless and Fabulous podcast. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments about what we talked about today, or even if you need to reach out to Michayla, please do so. I am excited that we have a great lineup of women coming up, so please come back to this space and we'll see you soon.